that's the thing about songs and poetry, which I use also. I use all that kind of stuff because it resonates in me, and it resonates in me in a way that I believe people can feel.
Yeah.
If I don't do it, like I said, for the novelty of it or to impress people, I need to get something that they won't be able to get out of their minds. And the reason that so first it was if only we could turn back time, right? And you'll see me saying that more at the beginning, and then at the end it's just the two trigger words. But I guarantee, I know just from talking to people afterwards, like they couldn't get it out of their mind. The song.
If only Ride the Ducks of Seattle done their job, done something, done anything. If only when Mr. Bishop had examined the vehicle, he'd been with mechanic. We'd already looked at it more carefully because of Ms. Chido's concerns. If only when Ms. Chido called the Ducks office on the 20th and said, there's something terribly wrong with this vehicle. It made the hair on the back of my neck stand up straight. I pulled it over. I don't want to drive it anymore. It's not safe. If only they had sent out mechanics for longer than 2 minutes to look at it. 2 minutes. If only when she brought it back after completing her tours that day, 4 tours, the mechanics, instead of saying, yeah, you don't really know, so we know what you're talking about, and if it's not broken, we can't fix it. If only she hadn't crossed out her concerns because of embarrassment, or trying to please mechanics who didn't know that anything was wrong because she couldn't explain it well enough. If only there were mechanics at Seattle Ride the Ducks who didn't expect a brand new captain to know what was wrong with the vehicle, and if they said there's something wrong, so wrong, it makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck, that they would pull everything off that duck and look underneath where she said the sound was coming from and figure something out, if only.
You know what's a couple of things that strike me. There were so many if onlys. It's like if only, we wouldn't be here. So many opportunities they had. Like that's because you kept saying if only. And how many times had you seen the videos by the time when you talked about from the bus's angle, from the students' angle and stuff? Do you remember how many times they'd seen it by the time you got to closing?
Not very many, because I didn't want them to see it too many times. We talked about that. I don't want to desensitize it to them. And the defense kept telling them that I was going to show it to them again, which I wasn't. So they really saw it maybe a total of 3 times in 4 months. But once you see it, you never forget it.
And as certainly part of the reversing it is a huge part of that if only. Is also part of it because like y'all get to closings and it's like, especially these folks have been there for 4 months and you don't want to be like, you didn't pay any attention. Let me go through everything again. So you don't want to do that, but you certainly want to, because it has been 4 months. Here are the important things. Was that also part of the equation in going backwards with it? Because now it's seeing it from a different angle.
And I think that's what you see in this clip is I'm telling them the alternate story. Right? If they'd done this instead of, and they knew that she said that it felt like the hairs were standing up on the back of her neck, but then her testimony was that she called, they pulled over, they came for 2 minutes and they said, it seems fine. She came back, she complained. They told her she didn't know what she's talking about. She crossed it out. So they knew that was a testimony, but then that's the thing is you don't want to regurgitate the same testimony. People do that in closing. They use it to summarize everything the same way, and juries hate that.
It's creating that link.
Yeah, the if only is a great device to use to when they're in other cases where they're trying to blame your client in some way. which they really didn't have any blame they could put on that, on any of the clients in this case. But because it is the question that everyone who, for example, loses a child asks themselves, why did I get in the car? Why did I pick that road? Why did I go to this place? And when someone is trying to blame your client or a survivor for something that happened, it's a nice way to start to say, they want you to believe, if only she hadn't picked that road, if only she hadn't just picked that day to go to the park, if only that. Those are the questions she's asked herself and beat herself up over her whole life. But now you know the truth. It wasn't caused by her. It was caused by these things. And then you go into the kind of things that Karen is talking about. If only the person with their hair standing up on the back of her neck had been firmer and said, we're not putting this dangerous duck boat on the road today. You know, if only that had happened. And now you know the truth. It's not what they're trying to do, which is blame your client. It's this. Because don't all of our clients ask that? I mean, and they ask ridiculous things like, if I hadn't gotten up that morning, if we just stayed in bed and cuddled, then this wouldn't have happened, right? So it's a great device to also deflect blame in cases when they're trying to blame your clients.